One of the features of your book that sounds so funny, but I enjoyed was the extensive discussion about the role of grieving. Mm. And, the argument has been made, you two, as you both well know, that grieving has been something that has been struck so much from our society. Even though every single ancient tradition on the planet has a very specified period of grieving in a life cycle, in our modern day, we just don't want to take the time for it. We don't want to take the time for elderly people. We don't want to take the time for burial and death and that process of grieving and all that means. And I really salute you in taking the time to lay that out in the book. And of course, inside that, you keep talking about opportunity, because in that space of letting go of what's so dear to us, sometimes it's another person, sometimes now it's the planet herself, that we can start to rebuild in a new conscientious way, a new kind of future.
Yes. If we're grieving, there's recognition there. We're not going back to how it used to be. In grief, there's surrender to what is. To say, we better love what's here because we're not going back to the way it used to be. Now, if we can grieve and allow what is true to be true, the reality of what we're confronting, then we can step up with courage and create a new future, new pathway into the future for ourselves that integrates these serious trends that we spoke about at the outset. So, anything about grieving you want to?
Well, just that, the first step with that is to really let ourselves feel what's happening on the planet. It's hard because we're going through a lot. We just, we're still in a pandemic. But when we let in, the destruction to the planet, it's very, very challenging. But when we let that feeling in, when we start little by little, letting it come in, what we come to is so much profound gratitude for this gift that we've been given of the planet. And that brings the energy to want to save it, to want to do everything we can to restore it, to protect it, and to make sure that it's here for future generations.
Yes.
So, but as we, it's the opposite of what we think. We're pushing away. I don't want to feel it, don't want to know it, I can't feel it. But actually we can. We are part of the planet. Of course we can feel it. We are the planet. So as we let it in, we're going to love it. And when we love something, we won't let it die. We will care for it.
Colleen, thank you for that. I think it's so important, and to touch into the space of gratitude, which has such inspiring qualities to it. And it inspires one toward love. I mean, it's a neighbor of love. That's right. That means you want to embrace it. You want to choose it. You want to help it live and beget more, if you will, to be biblical about it. It's just so important. It's so interesting. There's the historical perspective, which you've laid out, historical futuristic in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, et cetera. And then there's, the phenomenological view, which is that at any given moment, anything can change. Absolutely.
That's right.
It's just so interesting that at any given moment along the historical and futuristic trajectory, we can collectively say, okay, I got it, enough. Let's collapse and burn and crash and build today. It's just one of the miracles of life, right?
Right.
So I don't want to be overly enthusiastic about such a change happening where, let's say, the big fossil fuel companies have a moment of awakening and saying, I think we have to go down a different path. So therefore, we're going to divest 99% of what we're doing into green renewable fuels tomorrow. I don't want to be naive, but it is just it tickles you to think that we could come together like that at any moment.
We could.
So would you talk to that a little bit?
Happily. At the outset, I had this quote from Ted Turner and adapted it to say a problem, an opportunity recognized as an opportunity half realized. If we will recognize the opportunity to come together and choose a new future, it's very close. And what I like to do is to share with people the cell phone that they have, because that cell phone is a vehicle of radical transformation. Mm-hmm. Right now, 60% of people on this planet have access to one of these, and the internet. And that means a majority of us right now could speak to one another about the future that we want. And the future we don't want. Right. By the end of this decade, 60% is going to grow to 75%. This is growing astonishingly rapidly. And low Earth satellites are being put around the Earth right now, thousands of them, to engage with people in rural areas that currently don't have access to the internet. So you can see why this is going to grow. So we have the tools to communicate if we want it. Do we have the motive? You bet we have the motive. We're going to go into uninhabitability if we don't choose a way of living that is sustainable and surpassing on this planet. So we have a very strong motive. We have the technological tools. What's required is the will to use it. And well, how do you get that? Well, you get Mitchell to come on with his programs and to say, look, we have choice here. It's not
come on, everybody.
Yeah. If we recognize the opportunity, we can use it and move into that future. So that's how I feel. But this is quite radical. It's to stand outside of nation-state politics to planetary politics of a species politics, if you will. It's a new game that needs to emerge on the Earth.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I like to chunk things down to a micro level, sort of like fractal, because when we talk about things like global warming, by and large, it's out of people's grasp. It's too big to really, I keep using the word grok, to cognize.
Yes.
And so I was recently on Earth Day hosting and emceeing an Earth Day event in New York, well, online, but this time, which I've done for some years. And my talk was about just one's own personal habitat, that we want to keep our homes in order, clean, tidy, neat, organized, orderly. And you really can't even conceive of not having that level of orderliness and cleanliness and respect for one's home. But that's a level on which we can all relate. And then if you tell people, imagine all the books were on the floor and all the videos are scattered everywhere and your clothes are out of their, closets and all and just forming a big heap. You go, wait a minute, this is madness. No way I'm going to live like this. The toilets are overflowing. There's no water out of the faucet. All of a sudden, the whole story about global warming starts to come home, and anyway, I just wanted to offer that thought. So it becomes very personal all of a sudden. And if we can go from that micro to a larger macro, we may stand a chance to look at what each individual can do to play a role in a new future.
Yes. Yeah, there's so much that we can do. Because we require a whole systems change. Why deep and long? We require a whole systems change.
Yes.
And what does that mean? It means the work, perhaps, that we do, the clothes that we wear, the car that we drive, the home in which we live, the food that we eat. It just goes on and on. Well, you can say, well, I can change my diet. We're talking about that now, eating less meat as a society. Mm-hmm. clothes that I wear after the pandemic. People are saying, well, I don't need all those clothes. I see the
sweatshirt or two.
Yes, the transportation I use. I can change that towards more fuel. You see, you can just go. It's huge, which means that everyone can find a place where they can play a role. And I say again and again, what we need to find is our true gifts that we can bring to a world in great transition, because we each have different gifts to give. And a musician can have songs that would encourage us, inspire us. An architect would have homes that respond to these kinds of changes. A teacher can have, well, I'm going to teach differently in my school. We each have a role to play here. It's a team effort. It's a community enterprise.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
And with that, we can then begin to look beyond the micro, as you were saying, to more macro. Okay, well, if I'm doing this and this with my life, what are other people going to be doing with their lives, so we can pull together in common cause? So, Colleen.
And that also includes just, how we are together and in community. So that, that's such an important part of it. So there's all the pieces Duane mentioned, and then there's, how are we showing up in humanity with each other, and how can we create it so that more people have opportunity, more people can contribute, in bigger ways, so those inequities can start to come, into more,
Balance.
more collaborative projects. So that's another really big piece to it, just like climate justice, for a long time now, many communities of color, communities of indigenous people have really bared the brunt of climate changes because of where they live and where their land is, and developing countries. And so we really need to recognize that, and especially those of us of privilege that have education or economic privilege, to just start recognizing that more sharing needs to happen, way more sharing.